beyond public benefits to private advancement, jobs, and housing. The North is often guilty of assuming moral superiority over the South because the North allows the Negro his public benefits. But when the Negro attempts private advancement, the self-righteousness of the North is frequently exposed. It is evident everywhere. 3 times in 12 years it has led to violence in Chicago. The Englewood district, where the latest violence took place, is on Chicago's south side, along the edge of an area which has seen an enlargement in the Negro population over the past 20 years. The line of demarcation between black and white, sometimes called the Wall, presently runs along the railroad tracks, which bound the community on the south and west. Inside this barrier resides a predominantly lower middle-class population, fiercely determined to maintain the present character of their neighborhood.
The 30-apartment building, 30 apartments in the building, 14 of which were vacant, and the landlord had leased and rented the apartments to this Negro family, and the result of this, tension has grown in the area. Groups have been gathering every night. There have been disturbances, disorderly conduct. Policemen have been assaulted.
It was Chicago's worst racial disturbance in more than a decade. Why did it happen? Strangely enough, the reasons are always the same. Distrust, unfamiliarity, fear, bigotry, often encouraged by profiteers. Similar thoughts run through the minds of people all over the United States. Exerting political power, the classic means of advancement for minorities in America, apparently seems too slow a method to most of those waging this struggle. But their political power is increasing, both as voters and as holders of public office. This can be seen in Massachusetts. The highest elected Negro public servant in the United States is the Attorney General there. Brooks speaks as a Negro who must appeal to every kind of voter.
The Negro, if he aspires to high elective office, must remember that he represents all of the people, not just the Negro people, but the white people, all of the different creeds, and that he must campaign on the issues pertaining to his particular office. I did so campaign in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I talked about the ills of Massachusetts government. I talked to people up and down the Commonwealth. I listened to their problems of housing and education and feeding and clothing, and I directed my campaign towards them. I think when this is done, that the white community will accept a man, regardless of his race or creed, to elective office, and I think that my election has proved this.
Congressman William Dawson, for a time the most powerful Negro politician in the country, is an old-style political boss. His power base is an efficient machine on Chicago's south side, a district which is 99% Negro and economically depressed. From this slum area, Dawson can command margins of 100,000 Democratic votes, enough to carry the state of Illinois. Dawson has never been a race leader. Like many congressmen, he has accommodated to the rules of the club and has enjoyed harmonious working relations even with colleagues from the Deep South. Behind the scenes in Washington, Negroes today play an important role in the formulation of administration policy. A deputy chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Louis Martin, feels strongly that the new Negro in politics must be a decision maker.
I think they unquestionably will be decision makers. They are now in many instances. I must point out that in the Kennedy administration, the Negroes who have been given big appointments, like Dr. Robert Weaver, the head of the Housing Authority, is a decision maker. Incidentally, his office, of course, is not a racial office. It's the whole national housing effort. These are not token jobs. These are jobs where they have a real responsibility for carrying out the oaths of their office, and I think they are expected to live up to them in terms of all the people.
In New York City, the leader of the Carver Democratic Club is Councilman J. Raymond Jones, sometimes called the Fox, considered by many as the most powerful Negro politician in New York State. Jones is a conscious race leader with strong convictions about the importance of economics in the Negro Revolution.
As a political leader and as councilman, I see the role of the Negro politician as one working in the area of government, in the area of law, to produce those forces that will react on the economy of the country to the extent that big business will begin to realize that they too have a part to play in this revolution.
According to the Muslims, the white man is the devil, the source of all evil. He hates black men, and black men should hate him in return. Those are the basic teachings of Elijah Muhammad, the Muslim prophet. He also teaches his followers, about 75,000 all told, that Christianity has failed black men. The American government has failed black men. The Muslim solution, a separate black state.
Free you from anything, and Negroes don't know the truth. You find the Negro getting drunk, he doesn't know the truth. You find the Negro taking dope, he doesn't know the truth. You find the Negro lying and cheating, he doesn't know the truth. He's usually imitating the white man. Negroes get drunk because they see white people get drunk. They smoke cigarettes because they see white people smoke cigarettes. They commit fornication and adultery because when they turn on the television, all they see is a white man committing fornication and adultery. So, and they want to be like the white man, so they copy his immoral social habits. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes along and teaches black people the glory of black. And instead of the black man then trying to imitate the white man, he tries to imitate God. He tries to be himself. And he tries to display high moral qualities rather than the low moral qualities.
Right after World War I, a Negro leader named Marcus Garvey organized an ill-fated campaign based on the same principle. One of many men who opposed that movement, Philip Randolph, recalls conditions that led hundreds of thousands of Negroes to join the Garvey parade.
They had come out of the war, where they had fought and died, and come into the southern communities where they met a violent racial discrimination. Many soldiers were the victims of police brutality. Some were lynched, and therefore there was widespread frustration and discord and discontent among Negroes. Garvey came along with his doctrine of back to Africa, and he painted glowing pictures of what Negroes could do were they to migrate to Africa, how they could build great enterprises and things of that sort. And this caught the interest and the imagination of the Negro, and many of them flocked into the Garvey movement.
It's feared by some whites that the Muslims advocate violence, but that's not exactly the case. They say they don't believe in starting a fight, but if white men mistreat them, they won't turn the other cheek. That brand of militancy has forced other Negro leaders to become more aggressive. It's the implied threat of increasing Muslim power that makes some whites more willing to negotiate with the so-called moderate groups. To that extent, the black Muslims are making a major contribution to the drive for equal rights. This is the construction site of the Union County Courthouse Annex in Elizabeth, New Jersey. The demonstrators are protesting the fact that few Negroes have been admitted to the building trade unions. By their reckoning, Negroes have a right to more jobs on public projects such as this one because the money comes from tax dollars out of their pockets as well as the pockets of whites. This demonstration actually began before sunrise. At 6 a.m., only one picket was present, having been there all night long. He described his makeshift bed as uncomfortable, but police called it unlawful. What made you decide to sleep here tonight?
Well, I feel like that I'm a Negro and that we are striving for equal rights, for opportunity, for jobs, and more security for our young people, our race, our children that are coming up in life, and better schooling. And I feel like that we're entitled to it. And we have one foot in the door now, and it's no time to stop.
Eventually, other demonstrators began arriving in small groups. They gathered at a nearby Negro Baptist church across the street from the project. Inside, clergymen conducted a sort of pep rally for pickets, complete with songs and chants. They also told the demonstrators how to go about avoiding trouble and maintaining order at all costs. But once outside the church, it didn't take long for things to get out of hand.
Listen to me! Listen to me! Get that line back! Hold that line back! Everybody into the church!
When you watch demonstrations like this one, a number of questions come to mind about the ideas and emotions of the people involved. One way to look for the answers is to put yourself on the picket line. I guess the first thing that strikes you is an awareness of pride, tremendous pride. You sense it in all the people around you. Courage, too. It may not be much, but it is a personal effort. The strangest part about it is everybody here keeps going. Every one of them must know, deep down, there's very little chance that what they want will be given anytime soon. It's something like swimming out to sea, no end in sight, no signs to tell you how much farther you have to go. So you just keep going, one stroke or one step at a time, hoping. Maybe somewhere, sometime, a wise man will figure out a better way, an easier way of fighting back. I'll bet a lot of people here would like that. After a while, your feet start hurting. You get tired. You get bored. You start thinking about all the other places, all the other things you'd rather be doing right now. But they stay because they're part of something. Maybe the most important something of their whole lives. That doesn't mean they're friends or even that they know each other. It goes much deeper than that. I'd say it's a kind of kinship, the kind that comes from sharing the same foxhole. Come to think of it, this thing could be just about as dangerous as a foxhole. Another one of those free-for-alls might break out at any moment. I'll bet that thumps. Suppose the guy next
in the North, the Negro has his consumer rights and the vote, but he joins in the demand for an education. Then,
what would you do? Suppose the policeman slugs you. Well, one thing's for sure, there's no comfort in thinking about it. But as you walk along, you pick up a sense of determination, even stubbornness all around you. And you can tell that if trouble does come again, not one person will run away. The fight for more jobs is still going on in many cities, including Brooklyn. They march, sit, or lie down to dramatize their demands, and some get carried away. Those demonstrations, and others just like them, have sparked action on a number of fronts to lessen job bias. In addition, some employment gains are being made through boycotts or selective buying campaigns. It's expected, in fact, that the economic boycott will soon replace demonstrations as the primary weapon in the fight. This threat already has led some business firms to go out of their way to put more Negroes on the payroll. But despite charges of discrimination in reverse, some integration leaders say not nearly enough companies have adopted that policy. In their eyes, job discrimination is the paramount issue in the Negro revolt. Their reasoning is simple. It takes money to obtain advantages such as higher education and better housing, which means that for millions of Negroes denied an equal chance in the job market, The American dream is beyond reach.
Negro demonstrations in the North have made it clear that the revolution is national in scope. Although it has different objectives in different areas, a common goal of the revolution is the elimination of discrimination. While a few northern cities, Hillsborough, Ohio, New Rochelle, New York, have been found guilty of segregating schools by twisting boundaries of school districts, a far more common condition is the school that is predominantly Negro because the district is predominantly Negro, and this because housing in that district is all the Negro parents can afford, as in Englewood, New Jersey. As Englewood schools opened for the academic year of 1962 to 63, months of talk and legal maneuver turned suddenly into action. Lincoln Elementary School, 95% Negro, was picketed. A boycott left it almost empty. Englewood itself could not have been more surprised. The city, an important dormitory for the New York metropolis, seemed an ideal hometown, even to its 7,000 Negroes, nearly one-third of the population. Englewood has no visible racial barriers. There are palatial Negro homes in the most exclusive section. Comfortable middle-class homes are a commonplace. Negroes work for the city and for private enterprise. All public facilities are open to them. But there is a blot on Englewood's pleasant face, the Fourth Ward. It's a slum, almost entirely Negro, like the neighborhood school. This creates de facto segregation, and finally, some Negroes decided to act.
We couldn't work within the structures of any of the organizations that are set up because of the various constitutions of these organizations. So consequently, a group of us got together, we decided on the Englewood movement, and after we got just about ready, we said, well, we needed someone to coordinate this movement. Hence, we called in Mr. Paul Zuber.
Well, I think that what we are trying to do with the Englewood movement is to crystallize the complete contempt and lack of respect which is more or less shown towards Negroes in suburban areas such as Englewood. I think that one thing also that should be perfectly clear, the white liberal in the North is very upset about the Englewood movement because this is the first time that there will be an outcry against racial discrimination in a suburban area where the Negro population is not the majority. These same liberals didn't complain about mass rallies in Harlem, but they will complain when it's coming too close to their own backyard. These same liberals will send $25 to desegregate in Albany, Georgia, but they will turn their back and call names if we're trying to desegregate and bring equality next door to them.
Paul Zuber's rally drew 4,000 cheering Negroes into Englewood's McKay Park. Past apathy gave way to new determination.
And the time when the white power structure could get one or two old Negroes, preachers and a few doctors and a lawyer or two, and bring them in the back door and deal for you and me is over.
People say that I wheel and I deal and I move in high-handed fashions. Let's face one thing, folks, we're in the big leagues now. Now, anybody who wants to play sandlot baseball, you take the token integration that goes with it. You take the token freedom that goes with it. I want it all. I want it now, not tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And if it comes the day after tomorrow, I'm going to fight for it.
De facto segregation at Lincoln School was officially ended. 70 other cities in 18 northern and western states still must solve the problem.
Demonstrations of all types are prohibited. All stores will be closed at 7 p.m. Curfew at 9 p.m.
Please obey the curfew. We will not have demonstrations tonight or a mass rally. We're meeting with the Attorney General of the United States. He's working on some solution for campers. So please, obey the curfew. Please obey the curfew.
Guardsmen used tear gas to break up another Negro protest, and even guardsmen became the targets of the snipers. The shock waves of the violence reached even to the White House. President Kennedy rebuked the demonstrators for having lost sight of their objectives. Governor Torres appealed for a solution to satisfy what he called the legitimate pleas of Negroes for equality. Finally, on July 23rd, a solution was announced in Washington after long hours of hard bargaining directed by Attorney General Robert Kennedy. It called for completion of desegregation in public schools, formation of a biracial committee, construction of a federally sponsored housing project, a Negro interviewer at the State Employment Office, and a controversial amendment to the city charter providing for desegregation of public accommodation. Cambridge has not been a model of how to settle a racial problem. Peace is being enforced from outside the community by the National Guard. The solution to a local problem was engineered in Washington. If there has been a positive side to the Cambridge story, it may be that other Eastern Shore communities have been influenced to find a more peaceful solution.
This is going to be an education problem and an economic problem. When you have such high unemployment amongst Negroes, averaging in our major northern communities 2 to 3 times that of white people, when you have heads of 1 out of every 4 Negro families in the city of Chicago that don't have employment, you have Negroes which are on relief for the second generation, where you have young people who drop out of school in large numbers, hundreds of thousands, and cannot get employment, where the unemployment rate goes up to 70 and 80%, where you have all of these factors, and people living in poor, substandard housing, lack an adequate education, don't have any recreation, and can't look forward to any hope, can't look forward to employment so that they can support a family, where you have malnutrition, where you have disease, all of these factors coming together, and this kind of explosion that's taking place at the present time. I say that unless we come up with some answers, economic answers, we need 30,000 new jobs in the United States every week over the period of the next 10 years to have a full economy. Unless our economy does well, and unless we can find employment for our people, then you're going to have many problems. I think that we can do that. I think we can stress vocational training. I think we can stress education. I think we can have our best teachers in these areas. And I think that with the passage of the tax bill, I think that, and with other measures that could be taken in the economic field, these really come under the category of civil rights, then I think we can get the answer. But you're going to require this action by the federal government, you're going to require action at the state level, the local level, and then the people themselves. If all of this is forthcoming over the period of the next 5 years, we'll come up with some answers.